And now, HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing.
The following is a presentation of HBO Sports.
Sometimes boxing fans confused. Who is the champion? Right now, it's just one answer. Klitschko.
Vladimir and Vitali Klitschko are the undisputed kings of the heavyweight division. Earlier this summer, younger brother Vladimir defeated David Haye and fulfilled the Klitschko's dream of collectively owning all four recognized title belts. Tonight, it's Vitali's turn to grab the spotlight, defending his one-quarter slice of the heavyweight crown. Following a 4-year hiatus due to injury, Vitali Klitschko returned to boxing in 2008 and has since emphatically reclaimed his place as one of the dominant big men of his era.
Klitschko is a cold-calculated, cerebral killer.
Always in superb physical condition, the 40-year-old Vitali has shown little signs of slowing down. Now he travels to Poland to take on one of the best heavyweights in the world, not named Klitschko. Former light heavyweight and cruiserweight titleist Tomasz Adamek has spent the last 2 years constructing his heavyweight credentials.
Standing his ground, letting his hands go, showing no fear.
For the 34-year-old native of Poland, that campaign culminates in a chance to break the Klitschko stranglehold on the division and send shockwaves through the sport.
Klitschko is a great champion, but now my time is coming.
I'm ready to show for everyone. I'm much stronger than Tomasz Adamek.
Live from Poland, it's Vitali Klitschko versus native son Tomasz Adamek on World Championship Boxing next. We are live at the Adrian Phillips Ballroom at historic Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey, for a special Twilight World Championship Boxing doubleheader. First, we will be bringing you, live from Poland within the next hour, the Heavyweight Championship Showdown, or Heavyweight Title Showdown, I should say, between Vitali Klitschko, the older brother of the two Klitschkos who ruled the heavyweight division, and Poland's Tomasz Adamek, getting a chance to try for the biggest score of his life in front of the citizens of the nation where he grew up and began his amateur and professional boxing careers. Adamek now hails from northern New Jersey, where in Newark he has become an American franchise. But today he is all Polish, as before a crowd of Poles, sprinkled perhaps with a few Ukrainians, he takes on one of the two prides of Ukraine, Vitali Klitschko. Vitali, at age 40, trying to extend an unbeaten streak late in his career, which followed his return to the sport after a layoff due to injuries, a long layoff in the middle of this decade, which appeared to have terminated his heavyweight importance, but turned out to be only a recess. Since he's come back, he's not only won every fight, he's won every round. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. We're very excited to welcome you to this two-installment Boxing Day on HBO. First, we're going to be taking you to Poland to see Klitschko and Adamek. Later tonight, At 10:30 Eastern and 10:30 Pacific time, 10:30 on both coasts, we'll have the World Championship Boxing live telecast featuring Yuriorkis Gamboa, number 1 featherweight in the world. He'll be defending that 126-pound distinction against Mexican veteran Daniel Ponce de Leon. Also on that show, we'll give you a videotape replay of the fight you are about to see live from Wrocław, Poland, where Vitali Klitschko is defending his portion of the heavyweight title against Tomasz Adamek. And let's take a look at the heavyweight neighborhood in which the fight will be taking place. At the top of the graphic, you see the two Klitschkos who have ruled the division for several years now. Vitali has 1 title belt. Vladimir, with 3 title belts, is seen by most as the number 1 man in the division. Adamek has risen to become the number 1 contender. Alexander Povetkin, after a long layoff, recently won an eliminator against Ruslan Shagayev to get back into the picture. Robert Helenius of Finland is the first great Nordic heavyweight, and he's making a splash in Europe within the past year, similar to the splash that was made here in the United States a couple of years ago by Chris Arreola, before Arreola was halted in Staples Center in Los Angeles by Vitali Klitschko. Now turning live to HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman. Max, as I mentioned, most people regard Vladimir Klitschko as the number 1 heavyweight. He's the younger brother. Vitali's number 1 in the family as the older brother, and how do you assess him in recent heavyweight history?
Think about this, but really think about it. With over 40 professional fights, at the age now of 40, historically old for any division, Vitali Klitschko has never trailed on the scorecards at the conclusion of a fight. Think about that. 2 losses. His first to Chris Bird. He was way up on the cards. He retired because he threw out his shoulder. Many in the North American boxing media, including me, said this demonstrates that Vitali Klitschko doesn't have the necessary intestinal fortitude to really become a dominant heavyweight. Well, Klitschko seemed to get that message training later in the United States and hearing the criticism, clearly internalized it and showed against Lennox Lewis in a fight in which he was ahead but badly cut over his eye. In the 6th round, when they tried to stop the fight, he vehemently protested in the corner, really genuinely wanted to keep fighting. His face just didn't cooperate. It was falling apart. Vladimir Klitschko has more wins against top opposition than Vitali, but he's been knocked out multiple times. And Vitali Klitschko tonight is the favorite against maybe the 3rd best heavyweight in the world, and not a favorite by a little bit, Jim, a substantial, overwhelming favorite to win.
Well, the coincidence, you mentioned how Vitali's courage can never now be questioned. Another fighter whose courage cannot be questioned is Tomasz Adamek. And Emmanuel, as a light heavyweight and a cruiserweight, he was a face-first destroyer and a very brave one. Since he's moved up to the heavyweight division where he's tiny, he has changed his style. I see him jumping around from spot to spot, entering at angles, throwing punches in bunches. Very similar to what Michael Spinks was able to pull off about 25 years ago against Larry Holmes. Can Adamek do what Spinks was able to do?
He can do it, but it's going to be very difficult. First of all, there's a major difference between Michael Spinks when he was fighting Larry Holmes, because it was only 1 inch difference in height. In the fight tonight, we have Adamek is about 5 inches shorter than Vitali Klitschko. In addition to Vitali being a tall fighter who fights tall, he utilizes his height. He'll bend forward and let you punch in. He'll take his body back away from you, punch and move you around as he's doing that. But Adamek is fighting the type of a fight that he has to fight to win the fight, which is to move, change directions. From the time that he left the cruiserweight and went to the heavyweight, they made plans immediately to fight a Klitschko. So they brought in tall fighters, and Roger Bloodworth came in, and he changed his style to be able to move and try to utilize the balance that he could get in speed to win a championship fight. He's got to try to win on a decision, but in particular with this crowd.
All right, let's take a look at the tail of the tape for Vitali Klitschko and Tomasz Adamek as they get ready to go into the ring in Poland. And you'll see the 6-year age difference, the 5-inch height difference that Emmanuel cited between Vitali and Adamek, an arm length advantage of 4 inches measured from the armpit to the end of the fist, a 27-pound weight advantage for Vitali, and Vitali was surprisingly light coming into the fight, obviously making a calculated decision to trim his weight a little bit in favor of movement and quickness against the smaller fighter. Now let's go to Michael Buffer in the arena in Poland.
is Tomasz Adamek, the next heavyweight champion.
Tomek, jesteś dumą Polski, sięgnij po pas.
Tomasz, heute schreibst du Boxgeschichte. Hol dir den Titel.
So we're looking at the in the arena build-up there in Poland for the native son Adamek, and we should mention that this is a brand new stadium. This is the first international event to take place there. It will seat more than 40,000 people. The crowd is expected to be standing room only. Everybody in Poland who could somehow gain access to this fight is there, and it should be a tremendous environment, particularly for the home fighter.
Well, earlier today, Jim, I spoke to Adamek Klitschko. Adamek, who's very nervous, naturally said, because the crowd and excitement is beyond anything that they have saw, particularly where they've always fought in the situations where they was like favorite. Even when Vitali fought Lennox, we still had a great turnout. But this crowd over here is very intimidating. And Adamek says 45,000 people. And that's because they can't get another 1,000 in.
Yeah, Max, I've always said that night in 2003 when Vitali Klitschko fought Lennox Lewis on relatively short notice as a substitute for Kirk Johnson in Los Angeles, we learned how many Ukrainians there were in Southern California.
And it was a really exciting fight, and that's something about the European promoters. When they promote these enormous fights, they have a tremendous pre-show, as we're seeing here. And sometimes the pyrotechnics before the show outstrip the pyrotechnics once the fight begins.
As was the case in Hamburg when David Haye had his much ballyhooed showdown with Vladimir Klitschko.
As is often the case in Klitschko fights. But here we have in Adamek a fighter with a real fighter's heart. And Vitali Klitschko has been involved in some knockdown, drag-out type fights. So maybe we get some pyrotechnics once the bell sounds here as well.
We expect an enthusiastic reception now for Adamek as he slowly makes his way into the ring. Mentioned that he's become a franchise in northern New Jersey, fighting at the new arena in Newark and developing an audience, Emmanuel, not only among Polish immigrants and working class whites in northern New Jersey, but also he's pretty much the dominant fighter in an all-black gym and has generated an audience among African-American boxing fans as well.
That is very true, Jim. I have a lot of friends of mine. So one of my fellow trainers, James Ali Bashir, who lives there, says they love him over there in New York, meaning the black people over there. But you know, the Polish fans are some of the most emotional and boisterous fans in the world, right up there with the British fans. I remember when Lennox Lewis was fighting Andrew Galata, and even though Galata is not a big superstar on the level the way he is right now, we could not believe when we came out here in Atlantic City, the red and white flags were just unbelievable, because Lennox thought he would have a big following because, you know, with the Canadian, the British, you know, and the Jamaican all over here near the East Coast, but the Polish people were jammed out in support of Galata.
Indeed, Tomasz Adamek's first assignment in the heavyweight division, Max, was against Galata. He knocked him out. That was a rite of passage for him. Maybe not impressive to American fans who remember all of Galata's wipeouts, but he needed it.
Well, he was just moving up in weight, and it was in Poland, and he didn't just knock him out. He totally destroyed Galata, and at that point, the affections for Galata in Poland were transferred to Tomasz Adamek.
So there he is in the ring. And you saw on the graphic the 27-pound weight disadvantage he'll be operating with against Vitali. Frankly, he's been in against much larger men. He was outweighed 70 pounds in his last fight by Kevin McBride.
The defending world champion.
And now here comes Vitali's walk-in. And one thing we've only briefly mentioned here, Emmanuel, is the 4-year layoff Vitali took away from the ring when it appeared he was retired for good in the middle of this decade. Some were surprised when he came back. Since then, it's been an extended winning streak. How important was the layoff in developing the circumstances for how good Vitali is now?
But Jim, when Vitali was traded for the fight with Hossein Rockman, he asked me to come out to California to observe his training because he was not that satisfied. So I went out, and he didn't look too good in his training. So later that afternoon, he met with me in a room, and he says, "What do you think of my sparring?" I said, "I did not like it." He says, "Emmanuel, I will tell you something. I'm having more problems with my body as a result of injuries that I sustained when I was in kickboxing before I got into boxing on this level. And as a result, my opponents are not, and my sparring partners, neither one are as competitive to me as my own body is." Shortly after he announced his retirement from boxing, had a 4-year rest, his body healed up, I think, completely, and he's came back better than ever.
The Klitschkos are their own promoters. Because of their prominence in the sport, they are among the dominant promoters in Europe. Because of Vitali's economic clout in Germany, the Klitschkos could have insisted that this fight take place in Hamburg or Mannheim or one of their other regular haunts. And it's because Vitali Klitschko and his brother are sportsmanlike enough to understand what's good for boxing that they elected to go along with the emotional tide of this and hold the fight in Adamek's home country.
Where there is a Polish pay-per-view that they're hoping they can establish there, considering that a huge percentage of Poland has watched Adamek when he's fought in the past.
Outside of fight Adamek, the Polish fans are some of the biggest fans that have supported the Klitschkos. But all of the fights we've had in Germany, they bring a big contingent. And their television broadcasts have been phenomenal.
Surely there are thousands of Poles in the stadium today who are quite accustomed to having rooted for the Klitschkos, both of them for the last 10, 15 years, and will now be rooting against Vitali for the first time in their boxing fan lives.
This is the only star that they have. It's not like they have 2 or 3 star fighters from Poland. It's Adamek and nothing. So they're going to give all of their support for him.
Something Vitali Klitschko says he well understands and appreciates. But of course, he expected the crowd to be against him in Los Angeles when he fought Lennox Lewis. And by about round 4, they were very demonstrably mostly with him.
And part of that was the visual of Klitschko bleeding from that eye and fighting on in spite of it. And at the age of 40, he's prone to cuts, he's prone to injury, as you and Emmanuel point out. And Adamek, with his in-and-out style we've seen at heavyweight and his precise slashing kind of punching, that maybe gives him his best chance to win.
A different kind of challenge for Vitali, who for the most part in the past few years, Emmanuel, has been beating up big men like himself.
That is true, but you know, Vitali, this is a very small guy. That's, to me, it's just very hard to see Adamek doing too much with a guy he can't even reach up if the guy asks him, would you just wipe my face off? But it's going to be a challenge, though.
All right, now we'll stay quiet as they bring you the 2 national anthems, Poland and Ukraine. And after that, a 10 count for the victims of the recent hockey plane crash in Russia.
And now, the national anthem for Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. At this time, we must acknowledge the tragic loss of 43 athletes and staff from Russia who perished 3 days ago in an air accident. A moment of silence, please, as we honor their memory. May they rest in peace. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Panie i Panowie, witamy, welcome to a moment in history. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. Presented by K2 Promotions, KMG, and Main Events. And brought to you in association with SMG, Regional Vice President Michael Brill, and the City of Wrocław, Polska, Mayor Rafa Dukiewicz. Sanctioned by the BDB, President Tomasz Putz, Supervisor at ringside Artur Ellenson, and the World Boxing Council, President Jose Suleiman, Supervisor Joe Dwyer. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring. From the United States, Dwayne Ford. From Finland, Esa Litosari. And from Canada, Craig Metcalf. And inside the ring, in charge of the action at the bell, your referee from Italy, Massimo Baravecchio. And now, the moment in history has arrived. This is the premier event at Stadion Miaski, the first World Heavyweight Championship to be held in Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, from Wrocław, Polska, Panie i Panowie, let's get ready to rumble! Fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black with orange, official weight 98 kilograms. Professional record, 45 fights, 44 victories, including 28 knockouts. From Jilowice, Polska, the former light heavyweight world champion, the former cruiserweight world champion, and the WBC #1 ranked heavyweight challenger in the world, the Polish warrior, Tomasz Adamek. And fighting out of the red corner, wearing black with gold, officially weighing 110.2 kilograms. Professional record, 44 fights, 42 victories, including 39 knockouts. From Kiev, Ukraine, and Hamburg, Germany, the 3-time World Heavyweight Champion, the reigning and defending WBC Heavyweight Champion of the World, Dr. Eisenhower, Vitali.
Remember what I told you in the dressing room. No rabbit punch, no headbutts, no low blow. Shake your hands and good luck.
This fight has not played to the kind of fanfare, at least not in the U.S., that Vladimir's fight against David Haye did. Won't be tough to top that one. Won a very good fight. But can these two guys do something better than that? Can they give us something to talk about once the bell rings?
I think it's possible we're safe in absolutely guaranteeing it'll be a better fight than Vladimir versus Hay, just because of the way Adamek fights. Round one begins. Maravecchia, the Italian referee, sauntering out of the way as Vitali Klitschko, as usual, sets up at center ring and begins to measure his man. The Klitschko jab, short and abrupt. It's not pretty, it's tremendously effective.
Just studied the facial expression of Adamek. He doesn't feel comfortable with this situation at all. I think the size of Vitali, and also that Vitali is controlling the distance. He's keeping him at a distance where he can jab, and Adamek cannot mount his attack.
Nothing about Vitali Klitschko is pretty. It's just effective.
But he's effective. He moves in, and as soon as you punches, he creates a space by moving back just enough to get you out of position. And he can hit you with punches while he's moving back and move you out of balance also.
Hard right hand up the middle by Vitali Klitschko. Adamek has not been able to get started yet. We're a minute into the fight, and it has been, so far, another Vitali Klitschko whitewash. Now Tomasz Adamek jumps inside, as it becomes clear he is going to have to do to be competitive. He just can't stand out there at distance and take Vitali's jab, Emmanuel.
Now, Vitali is a very difficult guy to fight. He looks awkward, but he has a good sense of feeling when a guy is going to punch, and he'll move at the same time, usually in a direction that will neutralize the guy's punch as he's coming in.
Is his sense of space and distance one of his greatest assets?
One of his greatest assets. He's a tall man who fights tall.
Here we see him cutting off the ring as Adamek tries to circle.
The great quote that came out of Hamburg 3 months ago, that Vladimir Klitschko said, "I had to learn how to fight. My older brother was born to fight."
Vitali's a very tough man, believe me. Mentally, he's maybe one of the toughest guys that's ever been in the heavyweight division. I would rate him right up there with George Foreman and those type guys as far as his mental makeup.
Knocks Adamek back into the ropes, and as soon as Adamek leaves the ropes, Vitali stuffs another jab into his face.
I couldn't tell if he hurt Adamek with that right hand or if Adamek's feet were simply too close together.
A lot of nervous energy from Adamek. Not many effective punches as he gets his first taste of Vitali Klitschko's remarkable ability to command the ring. Harold Letterman's phrase, ring generalship, is seldom better, but that was just the first of the scheduled 12.
He might not have a chance if he tries to Michael Spinks, be Michael Spinks to Vitali's Larry Holmes. Given the size disparity, what we've seen in heavyweight history is Jack Dempsey jump on Jess Willard to try to mitigate the reach advantage. Adamek, I don't think, is going to fare very well at this distance. He's going to have to, as you mentioned, Jim, negate that distance, and maybe it's by being much more aggressive than this.
Well, Jack Dempsey may have been the hardest puncher pound for pound in the history of the sport.
I don't think anything Adamek is going to do in this fight is going to negate the advantage of Vitali. Vitali's outboxing him, and when he misses a punch, he moves Adamek's head where he can't come back with a counter punch.
Well, the difference is, too, throughout heavyweight history, guys like Jess Willard or Primo Carnera were not very skilled at a comparable size to Vitali. Vitali, though, as we mentioned, he looks awkward, is quite skilled.
Well, when the Klitschkos first came along, it was clear they would be a problem for American heavyweights because they were so big and both athletic. What we didn't know then was that both would become brilliant ring technicians and tacticians as well. Those bodies are impressive. But at the end of the day, it's their minds which have created the big gap in the division.
And that's right. And Vitali and Adamek are very mentally strong guys. And as you said, when I think Vitali was fighting with Ariola, you American guys want to compete against the Klitschkos, you're going to have to be prepared to be boxers 365 days of the year.
That's
and
exactly
many of
right.
our American fighters are not willing to make that commitment.
A lesson Ariola incidentally says he has learned and certainly appears to have inculcated to some extent. His body looks a lot better than it did a couple of years ago when Vitali roughed him up.
You know, in this round, Vitali's landing some good straight shots, but about 30 seconds ago, Adamek landed a left hook that I think bothered Vitali a little bit.
And there's a right hand by Adamek.
They're starting to exchange a little more.
So Adamek perhaps getting his feet wet and developing a little more of a comfort zone as he begins to mix in some of his own punches with Vitali's thudding right hand shot right there.
Adamek had no chance to win this fight unscathed. He's going to have to eat some punches. The question is, how will he react to it? How much does he want to win?
But don't forget, he's not a puncher. We talked about Michael Spinks going against Larry Holmes. At least Michael was a pretty good bangler, in addition to being a fairly tall man.
This is a much more competitive round than round one. That's the good news for Adamek. The good news for Vitali Klitschko is that he's handled that competition well enough to again win the round. And he crushes Adamek with that right hand, almost knocked him down. Tomasz Adamek has the guts of a burglar. He's going to need them all tonight.
Should have been a knockdown, Jim. The ropes held him up.
Round. It's going to be very hard to control it. Harold Letterman scores it a 10-8 round, clearly observing, as Max did, that should have been a knockdown when Adamek went into the ropes.
Manuel, as you point out, Michael Spinks was virtually the same height as Larry Holmes when he upset Holmes for the heavyweight title, moving up from light heavyweight. He had a similar reach to Holmes, not that much shorter, and so he could box from the outside, jump in and out. That is not how Adamek is built. He's going to have to figure something else out because at this distance, he's just getting clobbered.
You're right, Max, and I don't think he can do much more than that. The jabs are eating him up, and after a while, he'll be so preoccupied watching the jabs that when the right hand comes, he won't even see the right hand.
So how about moving within the range of the right hand, taking some sting off of it?
But he's going to have to just come in and just try to make it a brawl, but I don't think he's capable of doing that. Vitali is very good at controlling the distance and the pace of a fight.
Watch Vitali throw his right hand. You'll see how well he understands the importance of leverage for a taller fighter. He gets that right elbow up into the air and throws the punch down to increase its speed and its power.
One of the things that he and his brother does when they were having a little workout, they work out together on like a concentration. They would box, maybe moving around the ring with each other without punching, and never letting their eyes lose focus of the opponent. That's one of the things that both of them do very well. They have continually focused on the opponent and everything that's going on in concentration without ever blinking.
Yeah, and Vitali's ability to throw with his opponent shows that his reflexes are extraordinary.
Yes, very, 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 very anticipation of where a guy's head is going to be before he punches.
Look, in the heavyweight division, size is not unlike speed or punching power or skills. It's an advantage that can be used to your favor. Here, a 40-year-old man, I know he has a huge size advantage, but he's 40 years old, is fighting with his left hand at his knee practically and beating the hell out of the third best guy in the division. Well, I can't remember. When was the last time we saw a heavyweight with hands down at his hips like this?
He does that just to get you to punch at him, then he pulls back. So you see there, he does that just enough to make you punch.
Well, Adamek's going to have to take that invitation and try to load up on something.
Tomasz Adamek, 34 of 97. Adamek actually landing at a higher rate now after having landed some punches in the second and third round. Klitschko, 30 of 119 jabs so far in the fight. Harold, how do you have it scored as we come to the fourth round?
Okay, Jim, I've got a 3-0, 30-26, Vitali Klitschko. Now, Jim, he does deserve an extra point for that knockdown in the second round, which Baravecchio didn't call a knockdown. I mean, he clearly knocked him off his feet into the ropes. The ropes were holding up Adamek. But Vitali Klitschko, it's amazing. In round one, he had that left hand up. Just like Max said, from round two on, he's throwing that up jab. He drops it, and he comes up with it. Or he brings it up and he throws it straight. Either way, jabbing Adamek to death. 3-0, Vitali Klitschko.
Harold, because the referee Baravecchia did not rule that a knockdown in the second round, isn't it probable that the three official scorers over there in Poland have it 30-27?
What it means is that, you know, they don't have to call it 10-8. They could have called it 10-9. On the other hand, they do have the right to do what I did, call it 10-8.
Gotcha.
Because in Harold's judgment, Adamek was badly enough hurt by that punch that Vitali won the round that big.
But the thing is that he really took him off his feet. That's the reason you're going to give an extra point.
Yeah, I was in agreement with you, Max, that the ropes held Adamek up.
Most likely.
Well, you saw him wrap his left arm over the rope and grip it. Yeah. That's the telltale sign. Good right hand by Adamek, and the crowd comes alive for that. Hard right hand by Vitali Klitschko.
Now we see Adamek. His stance, Emmanuel's a little more aggressive.
Yes, he's got to fight more aggressive. Just sitting back, backing up and trying to anticipate what Vitali is going to do would never work.
That's to Adamek's credit, by the way. If what you prepared for isn't working, you got to go to a plan B.
Absolutely. Plan A was going to lead to a slow death. This may lead to a quicker one, but at least it gives him a chance to be in the fight.
This is his only chance. But, you know, when you have a tall man standing 5 inches taller than you, it's very hard to see those right hands. Even though he holds his right hand down, meaning Vitali, when he shoots it, a lot of time you don't see it still. And he's keeping it down so he can try to throw it, mixing up uppercuts with his right hand.
And Emmanuel, Adamek's face is starting to break apart under Vitali's punishment. Is he aware of that?
Well, he's broken apart in a lot of fights that came through, so it's part of his fitness.
It doesn't bother him. He's a very courageous fighter.
He's a true warrior.
You know, you watch Adamek throw the hook. He's so scared of Vitali's right hand by now that he doesn't step in with a good quick hook, Emmanuel. He's kind of slowing it up tentatively, and therefore it's not landing. Vitali's able to get his right hand up to block it.
When Vitali pulls back, a lot of punches that the crowd is going crazy are just barely hitting the gloves or shoulders of Vitali. That's the way he fights. The crowd is going in, but they're not landing that clean. What's interesting in looking at the reach, that Adamek's reach is, I think, longer than Vitali's.
It looks the round 5 of a scheduled 12. Tomasz Adamek gets off first in the 5th round, and the crowd once again roars for that. As we mentioned in the last round, Adamek clearly seeming to have made a decision to be more aggressive and step inside more. To do something to counter the effectiveness of that jab.
But I think he's adjusted a little bit to the height differential, which seemed to really bother him a lot at the beginning. And he's more comfortable now with the height of Vitali, and he's adjusted and fighting better now than he did earlier.
Also seems Adamek's going a little more to that straight right hand. Maybe Emmanuel, could it be that he feels less vulnerable to Vitali's right by throwing his own right?
No, I wouldn't really say that. It seems like he's getting more comfortable with the fight and everything, and punching and fighting better and thinking better.
We mentioned the courage of Tomasz Adamek. His first showcase in the United States was in Chicago in 2006 on the undercard of Lehman Brewster and Andrew Galata, fighting against Paul Briggs of Australia. It was one of the most blood-curdling fights of the last decade, partially because in the first round, Adamek's nose was crushed, broken into several pieces by a Briggs shot, and his nose poured blood for the entire 12 rounds while he was beating Briggs.
He's been given a lot of blood to us in fights throughout the recent years. Never complaining. That's what he's known for, and that's what a lot of people, including you, said that this would be a much better fight than the Hay Adamek Klitschko just because of the mental makeup and the courage that he has.
So far it has been better, yeah.
Already has been.
Speaking of bloody noses, by the way. It's like Adamek's showing some red under there right now.
Well, he's been taking a lot of jabs. I mean, he may throw punches and the crowd goes crazy, but the really effective punch in this fight has been still the jabs coming from Vitali. See, now he's mixed up now. He shot a right uppercut and then he went back with a jab. So he's got Adamek very confused now because he's doing so many different things now. Instead of just doing one thing, he's mixing up his punch. He's throwing hooks, he's throwing uppercuts. He may have cuffed him with a right, then he for a straight right. And to get physically fatigued and also mentally getting fatigued, it's a tough situation to be in.
Everybody tends to compare Vladimir Klitschko to Lennox Lewis. Because of their bodies and their styles, it's an easy comparison to make. I think the fighter Vitali most resembles is George Foreman in his second career. Fighting at his own pace, using brains as much as Brook. We are in Wrocław, Poland, for the battle between Vitali Klitschko and Tomasz Adamek. Easy for you to distinguish the two. Adamek is the smaller fighter on the left. Klitschko is the larger fighter on the right. As we go into the 6th of the scheduled 12, according to Harold Lederman and frankly to the naked eye, Vitali Klitschko has won every round, repeating the pattern which has obtained ever since he came back from his 4-year layoff a few years ago.
We heard Roger Bloodworth in the corner tell Adamek they're going to give him the rounds, that's just the way it is. The reason they're going to give Vitali the rounds is because he's beating the hell out of Adamek, and I don't think the change in strategy by degrees of Adamek getting slightly more aggressive is going to change anything other than to expedite his demise.
Tremendous right-hand shot, and this time the Italian referee does correctly rule it a knockdown as the ropes kept Adamek up.
Beginning of the round, you saw Vitali throwing right uppercuts. Then he throws a straight right hand over top.
And he's hitting him because Adamek is there to be hit at long range. At a certain point, Adamek's corner has got to tell him, you got to rush him, you got to get inside and stay in his chest and throw caution to the wind.
Vitali's only the 3rd fighter ever to knock Adamek down. The slick, quick Chad Dawson did it in outclassing Adamek in his only loss in the light heavyweight division, and Paul Briggs knocked him down in the first round of the 12-round war in Chicago that I described a while ago. Right now, Adamek is wobbling, and Vitali's looking to finish.
Vitali's fighting like a big man beating up a little man. That's what this really comes down to. And it's not even a competitive contest anymore.
Adamek lurches forward and lands a body shot, but they are becoming fewer and farther between now.
These are heavyweights, and things can turn with one punch. But
Adamek is nothing to him but a cruiserweight fighting a super heavyweight, not even a regular heavyweight.
Right.
You know, and it's just too much of a disparity in the size.
And the point is,
with the skill on top of Vitali.
The point is, even though a fight can change in one punch, it's not one punch that Adamek's getting hit with. At this point, it's dozens clean in the head by a nearly 250-pound man.
Yeah. Well, the thuddingly obvious point is continually underlined, and it shows up again today. In all probability, there's only one heavyweight in the world who could really challenge Vitali Klitschko, and that's the guy he's never going to fight, his brother Vladimir.
And Vladimir said if we ever fought Emmanuel, one of us would end up permanently damaged for life. It's the way we used to fight because of the competitive spirit in us.
There's one more out there, I think, that would make an interesting matchup with either Klitschko in the next year or so.
But did you see what Vitali, whenever he lands a punch, he moves you with that same punch as he, that's why you can't get close. He throws a right and he'll move your head after if he lands or misses, and that way you can't get all the way through and committing on those punches.
He was 32 out of 69, his high levels for the fight. Adamek was only 4 out of 23. Harold, how do you have it through 6?
Okay, Jim, 6-0, 60-52, Vitali Klitschko. I mean, boy, did we get a good view of that thudding right hand that Vitali Klitschko threw in round number 6. I mean, he's got some power out right here, another one right there. I mean, Vitali landed that jab, piling up the points, controlling the fight, doing everything he has to do to win each and every round so far. Really one-sided fight. Give Vitali an extra point in rounds 2 and round 6 because he took him off his feet. 6-0, Vitali Klitschko.
See there, every time that Adamek starts to move forward, Vitali takes that little step back, just enough to keep him off balance. And, you know, and he continuously works his jab. In between all of the other big punches, he still goes back to his jab, something a lot of fighters don't do.
Commentary here can become redundant, like the fight. Adamek can keep doing this, and this can keep happening. Or someone can say, forget about any tactical changes. You need a basic strategic change. Go get this guy. It's your only shot. That apparently has not yet happened, although Adamek is not like he's fighting without heart. He's taking a terrible beating, and he's continuing to try. He just needs a new approach.
See what he did with his right hand after he threw it there? He moved his head again. Every time Vitali throws a right hand, he uses the same hand to move the opponent's head so he can't come back with a counterpunch.
A subtle skill.
Yep. A lot of the good big tall fighters did that. Muhammad Ali did it very effective too.
Yeah, but Ali would actually back away from punches because he was quick enough to do it.
Yeah,
Vitali can't do that.
He doesn't have the foot
He has to rely on skill.
Yeah, maintaining the distance and the space is what he's been. That's what he did just there. It's what he does continue. See there? He doesn't block the punches. He pulls away from the punches instead of just blocking them, which would hold his opponent's weight up.
Which is why Adamek has to leap in with one of those left hooks like he means it, Emmanuel.
Yes, he had to leap in forward. See that? As soon as he came in, Vitali pulled back and started to jab.
Emmanuel, you've done so much thinking and so much talking about the strategy of fighting big, how to stay tall, be tall, and fight from a tall stance. Of the three excellent heavyweights in recent years who've done that, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, and Vitali Klitschko, and you've worked with all three in the gym at one time or another. Which one adheres best to the principles of big man fighting?
I would say Vladimir still. Vladimir, he just, Lennox was the one that was be more explosive.
Gentlemen, since coming back from 4 years off with injury in 2008, this will be the 70th round of heavyweight boxing for Vitali Klitschko, and arguably, he's won them all.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing. At his age. Now, he's not fighting the same level opponent until tonight that Vladimir's been fighting.
But Vitali is a very dominating guy. As soon as the bell rings, he sets the pace. He's busy. He has a great knockout record, but the record is basically in percentage off of him being so busy and systematically destroying guys, whereas Vladimir is much more explosive. He can do everything with just one punch, but he's not aggressive enough the way his Vitali is.
No, it's a great point. Vitali Klitschko has the highest knockout percentage in the history of the heavyweight division, and he's done that without having the kind of one-punch power that, for instance, Sonny Liston or Lennox Lewis or any number of George Foreman, any number of other heavyweights have had.
No, but he sets the tempo. As soon as the fight starts, he comes out right away with his hands down. He starts jabbing and throwing things and making his opponent get to thinking about what he's going to do.
But I was at Madison Square Garden. I watched him beat the hell out of a knockout Kirk Johnson. He won a real rough and tumble fight against the very explosive, dangerous Corey Sanders. He went toe-to-toe with Lennox Lewis. He fights, compared to Vladimir, like he looks, a little more rugged.
But the difference is, Vladimir, you could have a party going on at the house with lights on and everything, and all of a sudden the whole room goes black. And you know that's Vladimir's in the house. He's the only one that can do that with one single punch.
A bigger one-punch puncher than Vitali.
Yeah, but Vitali is a fragile. He looks less fragile and unsecure the way he fights as compared to Vitali.
Oh, well, there's no question that Vladimir has the more vulnerable chin, don't you think?
Well, the history will show that.
Yes.
So the way you stop
maybe
that, don't get hit.
Maybe that's why Vladimir has become, as you say, the best at fighting the big man principle, because he needs to be. It's all about not letting your chin go beyond your front knee.
That's right.
The Klitschkos between them have not lost a fight in about 7 years. And as you mentioned, Jim, even between them, they've barely lost a round. They've positively cleaned out the heavyweight division.
Well, the debate, down goes Vitali Klitschko. And the referee, Barabakia, is ruling it a slip.
What happened? That was a very
hard to tell what
of...
happened. We need a replay to determine, was there a punch? Why did Vitali pull? You know, we talked about how Vitali's won every round since the comeback. If Adamek had managed to mix in a punch there, he might have gotten credit for a knockdown and he might have won a round.
He definitely would have gotten credit for knockdown. That's the biggest concern that all of the people in Vitali's camp is always worried about is his legs physically from, as I said, his days back when he was kickboxing.
And yet another reason why Adamek needs to be in his chest, making this a physical fight and not a boxing match from long range, which he cannot win.
It's a great point. Klitschko's Achilles heel is his connective tissue. He's had injuries to shoulders, knees, ankles, you know, all of the places where tendons and ligaments hold you together. Vitali's had problems. So Adamek needed to put pressure on that body.
As a result of that slip, or what do you call it, if I was in Adamek's corner, I would tell him go all out now. Because whatever the whether it was accident or not, for him to just throw a right hand and fall down, he's trying to take it. Maybe something else wrong with his right leg.
Well, the question came up among our production troops a couple of rounds ago, is Vitali tiring?
I don't think he's tiring.
I don't either.
No. It's just how much punishment can Adamek take?
And if Adamek does not really commit to the bum's rush and comes in tentatively as he's doing, he's going to get caught right on the end of those right hands, as has been happening this round.
We criticized the referee Barabakia for not ruling a knockdown in the second round when Vitali knocked Adamek into the ropes. I guess we should give him credit for realizing at the end of that incident in the last round that there had been no punch. Hard to tell at first. Adamek looks very weary, getting jabbed around the ring here in the ninth.
That was the exact word I was going to say. Looked very weary. It looked like mental fatigue is set in also right now.
Those jabs are landing like right hands.
Yeah, but Vitali's never stopped jabbing. It's the one thing that I give him and Vladimir credit. They never stop jabbing.
44 jabs per round Vitali has averaged in the fight. Back in the day when Lennox Lewis was controlling the heavyweight division, there was a statistical barometer via CompuBox. If Lennox threw 30 jabs in a round, you couldn't touch it. Nobody was near him. Nobody could beat him if he threw 30 jabs in a round. If he threw as few as 20, he was vulnerable.
That was one of my favorite weapons of all the heavyweights I trained is jabs. Very few people really utilize the jab nowadays.
Well, George Foreman's greatest line when he was working with us, Emmanuel, this sport is easy if you have a jab.
Yep. George had a very strong jab.
Telephone pole.
Very strong, stiff. He and Sonny Liston may have two of the stiffest jabs in the history of the heavyweight division.
George threw it a little bit the way Vitali does, just sort of lifting his arm up and popping it.
Larry Holmes at times jabbed the same way from his hip if he felt in control of the fight.
Larry Holmes, one of the most underrated and unappreciated heavyweights in history.
He's in my top 10.
Phenomenal.
And he was a great jabber.
Jetzt musst du konzentrieren und schnell die rechte Hand in der setzen. Also du bist zu hoch für den rechten Aufwärtshaken. Und wenn er reinspringt, er kommt dahin und wieder verliert die Hand. Den Schritt zurück und dann auffangen. Mit der rechten Hand entweder als Cross oder Aufwärtshaken. Bloß dazu musst du immer wieder unten stehen. Nochmal was denn?
Was reduced to 30 punches overall, landing 9. It's been another one-sided fight in favor of a Klitschko. What's new?
Harold, how do you have it through 9? I agree with the theory that the Klitschko's haven't lost a round. I've got it 9-0, 90-79, Vitali Klitschko. You know, Jim, the one thing that amazes me is that Tomasz Adamek, I mean, if I were Tomasz Adamek, I would come over the top with a right hand. I mean, throw it to me with this boom right hand. Just wind up and let it go. And Adamek doesn't do it. I mean, you fight the guy that's big. He leans in a little. You notice how he leans in? I mean, if you're going to get him, you got to get him over the top with the right hand. Somehow or another, Adamek just doesn't do it. And that amazes me. He's made 9-0, Vitali Klitschko.
When Adamek does try to throw the right hand, all he does is get a shoulder. Vitali leans into him, but when he punches, Vitali always pulls away from him. So when he punches, he's gotten frustrated because he looks like he's there, but when he punches, he's not there.
Now you see the target, now you don't. Vitali Klitschko.
Yep. Meanwhile, if Klitschko does not score the knockout here, and maybe he does right here, but if he doesn't Rocky Marciano move back into first place for heavyweight championship KO percentage?
Could be.
It's not over with. The referees get in the position to stop the fight.
I don't see the point in this fight continuing.
Yeah, but there was no point in the Shannon Briggs fight going 12 rounds either. And it happened. Briggs wound up in a hospital for 8 days after a referee allowed Vitali to touch him up for 12 full rounds. And you wonder how Adamek's going to feel after this one.
Well, there Adamek loaded up on something.
Wobbles back into the ropes after a jab. How much longer can Adamek stand up in the face of all this?
I think Adamek's corner is going to have to stop the fight.
Yeah, he's not going to stop himself. That's it.
Good and the referee's going to do it. Excellent stoppage by the referee.
The referee was getting in position for the last 30 or 40 seconds.
And Adamek looks relieved. Another knockout, again by accumulation of punishment. Again, he won every round, practically every second of every round. And that was against a guy who has made a spirited bid in the last 3 years to become the #3 heavyweight in the world. Here's Vitali finishing him off.
Just too big and too good for this guy. At this stage, he's mentally and physically worn out completely. And I'm quite sure he welcomed the stoppage himself.
Stays ahead of Rocky Marciano, all-time heavyweight knockout percentage. Vitali Klitschko.
Well, this is interesting. I mean, I'll probably get in trouble for this one, Max, but Marciano went 49-0. Everybody talks about how weak the division is now. Marciano's biggest title defense was against Roland Lastarza. Don't you think the Klitschkos have fought the same kind of opposition that Rocky Marciano fought?
In both cases, they fought who was available, and they both cleaned out the division. Although there was only one Marciano, there are two Klitschkos. Gives them a sort of unfair advantage.
Here's the final CompuBox score. 230-89 in landed punches. More than doubled the thrown punches. Landed at a significantly higher percentage. Jabs next. Unbelievable show of jabbing. 140 of 414, 34%. You're going to win the fight if you throw 414 jabs and you land at that percentage. And oh, by the way, if you land at or close to 50% of your power punches, that's another surefire indicator. So the bottom line is Vitali had this one boxed every way imaginable. Punch Zone will show us where Adamek took all the punishment. 175 punches to the upper head and 50 to the chin. Tomasz Adamek got hit 225 times on the head or the face tonight, and only 3 body shots landed by Vitali. Similar to what Vladimir did to David Haye. Vladimir didn't land a single body shot, but completely touched up Haye around the head, just as did Vitali here.
I think I would disagree on those figures. I didn't see Vitali get hit with 50 body shots himself. I mean, Adamek couldn't get close enough to do that. And I thought that Vitali landed more body shots. I thought he landed about 10 good right hands to the rib.
Vitali hasn't been hit with 50 shots in his last 5 fights combined.
Klitschko landed 34 of his last 59 punches thrown, 58% to close the show. But what matters is the W. And the visible evidence on Adamek's face shows you how easily Vitali collected that. Roger Bloodworth dreamed for years he was going to get a heavyweight championship with Andrew Golota. Didn't happen. Adamek, he told us before this fight, is a far stronger, more resolute personality. Everybody knows that.
But physically just too small.
So we wait again for someone who's big enough, strong enough, brave enough, and smart enough to challenge either Klitschko. And Max, you suggest that the best hope may be Robert Helenius of Finland.
He's very big. He's athletic. He can punch. Most importantly, he throws punches in combination, which is rare for a big athletic heavyweight. He's a lot younger, especially than Vitali. And Larry Merchant was saying during the Arreola fight that he had a hunch Arreola could maybe win because he's a real fighter, throws in combination, he's young, and Vitali's getting older. Maybe it was a little premature at that moment, but eventually Vitali's going to be too old, and Helenius is a lot bigger than all their recent Klitschko opponents.
And athletic.
And undefeated, and when he knocks guys out, it ain't on a TKO stoppage. These guys are out cold when Helenius knocks them out.
We're waiting for the official particulars on the knockout here. Eventually, ring announcer Michael Buffer will step to the center of the ring and begin telling us about the victory for Vitali. But until that happens, we're filling, quite frankly, while you watch pictures from Poland. Another brave effort by Tomasz Adamek. He didn't exactly back down. He wasn't David Hay, but he simply didn't have the guns necessary to go into the fight.
Nor the wherewithal to switch strategy mid-fight and actually try to win, rather than just carry out a losing game plan.
Coming up tonight on HBO Sports, live coverage from Atlantic City of Yuriorkis Gamboa against Daniel Ponce de Leon. Gamboa will be defending his status as the number 126-pounder in the world. He's the best kind of champion in the sport, one unencumbered by meaningless title belts.
You know, Vitali Klitschko has the WBC belt, and his brother has the other 4 or 5 belts. But Vitali says, I have the belt that Muhammad Ali and Joe Louis had, Larry Holmes had. So that's his consolation when everyone refers to his brother as having more of the belts and considered the number 1. He says, I have the most important to me, the WBC.
Fighters see that. Fighters don't pay as much attention as we journalists do to the current behavior of governing bodies, including that one.
You would say that they're equally ridiculous. They take turns being increasingly outrageous. At this moment, maybe that belt is the second most outrageously incompetent or corrupt, take your pick, organization.
Well, it appears that we're just about ready for Michael Buffer to give us the official size up of what happened here. He's waiting for a cue from Polish television. Now he's got it.
Before we give the official time, let's acknowledge the heart and determination of this 2-time world champion, the Polish warrior, Tomasz Adamek. Of round number 10, the winner by TKO victory and still WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Dr. Eisenhower, Vitali Klitschko.
So we come to the end of the first of our 2 boxing installments today. Let's quickly take a look at what's upcoming here at HBO Sports. On September 17th, HBO pay-per-view showcases the much-anticipated return of Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is showing you again that his skill level is different from other people. He stands alone. Live from Las Vegas, the unbeaten Mayweather returns from a 16-month absence to take on one of boxing's rising young stars. Looks like there's a new welterweight in town, and his name is Victor Ortiz. The biggest opportunity of Ortiz's career comes in the wake of his impressive victory over Andre Berto. Berto staggered again. Straight left hand by Ortiz. Also on the 17th, before Mayweather-Ortiz, we go live to Los Angeles to see Canelo Alvarez fight fellow Mexican Alfonso Gomez. In October, middleweight champion Sergio Martinez is back in action, coming off 2 straight knockout victories.
And this is an amazing performance.
Maybe Sergio Martinez's most impressive performance to date.
He'll face England's Darren Barker on October 1. 2 weeks later, HBO pay-per-view brings you a light heavyweight showdown between Bernard Hopkins and Chad Dawson. Earlier this year, Hopkins made history with a victory over Jean Pascal.
The oldest man ever to win a legitimate championship in boxing.
But Dawson's youth, speed, and talent will challenge the elder statesman October 15. Boxing After Dark returns October 22 with the Filipino Flash, Nonito Donaire. In his first bout since his sensational knockout of Fernando Montiel, Donaire takes on undefeated Argentine Omar Narvaez. November brings the long-awaited third meeting between Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez. Over 7 years since they first battled to a draw. More than 3 years since a disputed Pacquiao win.
One more right hand from Marquez. One more combination for Pacquiao. They trade shots down the stretch.
They'll reignite their stirring rivalry November 12th on HBO pay-per-view. It's an exciting few months in the ring on HBO's Boxing After Dark, World Championship Boxing, and HBO pay-per-view. Before we sign off, a quick reminder to catch the premiere of the 3rd episode of 24/7 Mayweather-Ortiz tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. We'll be back later tonight at 10:30 right after that with an encore presentation of Klitschko Adamek, followed by live featherweight action between Cuban sensation Yuriorkis Gamboa, fastest hands in boxing, and Daniel Ponce de Leon. For our entire HBO crew here in Atlantic City, New Jersey, I'm Jim Lampley. Thanks for being with us this afternoon edition of World Championship Boxing.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.